Hello, Bryan Colter here, Evolutionary Astrologer, for another horoscope report for the upcoming Gemini full moon that happens in just a couple days here on the 7th or the 8th of December, depending on what time zone you're in. And right now we're recording this on the 5th. Sorry for the late delivery. I usually try to do this 4 or 5 days ahead of time, but I've been struggling with some health issues, so I've fallen behind schedule. But really, if we focus on the evolutionary intentions for this full moon now, it will ripple out over the next couple weeks. If you enjoy this video, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, comment below if you want. It really helps me to get exposure to a wider audience. With all that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the chart, see what's going on in the sky. Okay, so as we can see, we're smack dab in the middle of Sagittarian season. The sun is halfway through Sag, and then the full moon opposite the sun. Full moon is in Gemini, in a very tight, near exact conjunction with Mars. So Mars is going to be a major focal point of our analysis here. Before we dive into this full moon, let's talk a little bit more big picture. This is Sagittarian season after all. It's like, let's ask the big questions here and try to understand the larger cycles. First thing is, this is December, the end of 2022. Good riddance, right? Let's make way for the new. So the end of the year has a strong symbolic connection to one life cycle. So old age and then ultimately death. So in old age, we get more reflective, more contemplative, looking back, understanding in Sagittarian fashion the meaning of the last year. Really, I want to work with a 2-year cycle for reasons we'll describe in a second here. But just looking back, and looking back at the shape and flow of humanity, what directions we've headed towards, as well in our own personal life, and reflect upon that, and just kind of let go of our old 2-year cycle, and let go of the old to make way for the new. And 2023, in a lot of ways, is just a very different set of energies. And it is a time of new beginnings, a very critical year in this decade, I'd say. We'll talk more about that in a second. But, let's reflect upon this year. One of the major events of this year was this Neptune-Jupiter conjunction that happened in Pisces. They came exactly together in March, April, right around then, formed an exact conjunction. Why this was so significant is both these planets rule this sign of Pisces. I talked a lot about this in the last video. I went a bit deeper than I'll go here. But let's just say this year, this Piscean archetypal field has been super strong, and they've returned into Pisces towards the end of the year. So this is about to end. Jupiter in just a couple weeks is going to enter into Aries and continue to go on from there. So just honoring this Piscean field, reflecting back on what that's meant for you, and the challenges associated with Pisces, as well as the beautiful aspects of it. And some of the challenges with these energies can be a bit of murkiness or confusion, illusions, disillusionment, addiction, or escapism. I would imagine the average Apple device screen time has gone up 10% amongst the collective this year. There's just kind of this checking out of reality associated with this archetypal field. But then on the beautiful side of things, it's all about expanding consciousness, waking up, becoming more of an expression of our divinity, of our life light, of our virtuous potential, and ultimately spiritually evolving. And amidst the darkness, there always be darkness in this realm of duality. A lot of people have been raising their consciousness quite quickly. And thinking back and just, thinking about in your own personal life, where have you stumbled with Pisces energy, especially if these planets have been activating a sensitive area in your own personal chart? Where have you been a little murky or confused or escaping reality or falling victim's not the right word, but, falling into the trap of illusions? Where have you been disillusioned? And just thinking back without any praise or blame, just investigating. And I love the word investigating for this full moon because Gemini is the archetype of the journalist, and it's the most curious sign in the entire zodiac. So leveraging some of that inquisitive curiosity, looking back retrospectively at the end of this, let's say, death cycle of 2022, and thinking, what role this Pisces energy has played in your life. And then moving forward, how can you apply that to this sort of New Year's resolution, if you will, towards continuing on this more Piscean vein and the loftier expression of it? It's like, what do I need to do to grow closer to God? How can I deepen my meditation practice? What does my meditation practice even mean for me? And just let these concepts percolate within your consciousness in this month of really letting go of the old to make way for the new. And this event is very much connected to 2022 as a whole. But I did say a 2-year span of time. There's another event now ending officially this month, and this is the Saturn-Uranus square. I've talked about it ad nauseum for the last 2 years because it is about a 2-year event where these two planets have been squaring each other. They're about 5 degrees apart from what an exact square would be, so it's still active, but they're parting ways quite quickly here. So the end of 2022 is the end of this little mini era, if you will, 2-year era, where the challenges and positive evolutionary intentions are about to go in a new direction. And the challenges of these two planets squaring each other is restriction versus freedom, control versus liberation, the habits of the past, which have grown a bit stagnant or outdated, that want to make way for the new. This is the energy that Uranus-Saturn interactions bring about within our individual lives, but also within the collective. And what we're trying to do as a collective, this is like karmic medicine for humanity, because this Uranus is conjunct the North Node, is to be a more individualistic expression of our divine essence, basically. The part of us that is not a summation of outside influence from culture and family. In each individual, the real us, an individualistic expression. And there's a certain defiance associated with Uranus. And we're seeing this, just happening in all over the world, but there's 2 countries in particular, which is quite interesting to see this uprising towards freedom, rebelling against the old order in Iran. I've mentioned that in a couple different videos. I think they're on day like 80 of their revolution. And it's primarily younger generations. They've had enough with the regime, and then the regime in China as well. The people in China are rebelling, are revolting. And those are 2 countries that have suffered from so much oppression and control. And they are fighting against the dark side of the patriarchy. And it's quite impressive to see. And they're in my prayers, in my blessings every day. I wish them nothing but the best, and that they go more towards this Uranian impulse of freedom-seeking splendor. It's very interesting to watch. And this is just creating a ripple-out effect into next year, which, as I said, is a whole new beginning to this decade, if you will, because this is when, as you can see here in this chart, Pluto is at about 27 degrees of Capricorn. It entered Capricorn in 2008, right when we had the economic crash. And it's about to enter Aquarius in, I think, March of 2023. So it's entering a new sign since the first time since 2008. And it'll spend a couple months in Aquarius, and then it'll go retrograde and go back into Capricorn for a while. And then in 2024, it'll make its grand re-entrance into Aquarius, where it will stay for the next 15 or 16 years. And really, until 2026, we have Pluto changing signs, we have Neptune changing signs, and we have Uranus changing signs eventually. And the 3 slowest moving planets in the sky are all changing signs within a few years of each other. So we have this, I've talked about this before, this kind of triple pulse of great change occurring over the next 3 years. And this idea of by 2026, we're in a whole new world. Now, what is this new world that we co-create? Is it this, beautiful, more utopian world, or is it a darker place? I can't possibly know that. We can't understand. We can make an educated guess, but we can't guess a probabilistic future. It really depends on the level of the collective consciousness. Are we coming more from love and light? Or are we coming more from egoism and pride and the dark side of the force, if you will? Because again, we are within this realm of duality. So that's why it's so important to, among other things, to focus on the energy flowing through us individually and working with that energy instead of against it, with the goal being to put our personal growth and evolution into hyperdrive and to become that more virtuous soul expression of our consciousness, that life light going out into the world, having that ripple effect, a positive effect on other people instead of a negative effect on other people. And the more people that come together and do that, the much more likely we're to go on this, bump on this timeline, which is more beautiful, which is more utopian during this 3-year triple pulse, which I say 3-year, it's really 4-year, because again, Pluto enters Aquarius in early 2023, but then the dramatic changes occur 2024, 2025, 2026. I'm actually very excited about this. So this is all very big picture stuff. This exciting end, making way for a very exciting beginning in 2023, contemplating these energies, Saturn square Uranus, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for the world? What is my place in the world? These are the questions of the philosopher. These are very Sagittarian questions. And then we also look to this full moon and really dig into the minutia of this 1-2 week snippet, especially starting, the most dramatic pulses in a couple days here during the full moon event itself. It's like, how can I work with Gemini Mars, taking everything I just said as the contrasting background and really focus in the next couple weeks towards that evolution. Okay, so, Mars, the war god, is a very passionate planet. And here it is conjunct the moon, which is the center of our heart and emotions. And whenever we have a full moon, people on average feel a little bit more intensely because the moon does affect our emotional world. And so we have the passionate moon, we could say, and the passionate Mars planet coming together in this near exact conjunction. So this is an event of passion. And how we use that passion is totally up to us. We can use it in a very dark side martial way, which can be more destructive in the sense of, anger, rage, fear, frustration, irritability, stress. This can manifest in more, let's say, emotionally driven impulsivity towards being a little bit more competitive or combative, especially with words. Emotions, potentially volatile emotions expressing as words. I'm saying words because Gemini is classically known as the sign of communication. And this is what you'll read in the pop astrology websites of the world. What does Gemini mean? Oh, it means you talk too much. That's basically what you'll read from those websites. And that's not a phenomenon unheard of with Gemini, but it's certainly not the healthiest expression of it. Of course, healthy communication is a two-way street where communication is coming and going. But here you have this firecracker energy of Mars, people having a sharp tongue and a sharp wit, ready to combat their foes valiantly with their intellect, with their mind, with their words. This is Gemini energy. Now, going a bit deeper with Gemini, yes, it's the sign of communication. It's an air sign, so it's on the mental plane, so it's linked to our thoughts. Perhaps people on average having a little bit more aggressive thoughts, which of course will translate into the external environment as words and communication. But even underlying thought is perception. So in light of that, Gemini, really at the core of this sign, it's the sign of perception. And here we are in this very reflective month during this full moon. It's like, how do I perceive reality? And how can I perceive reality more clearly? By following this more journalism, investigative side of Gemini, and following your curiosity, basically, and asking questions. Just asking questions. I just heard Elon Musk in an interview talking about his life philosophy, and he learned it from somebody else. I forget the name of the person. But if the answer is the universe, and basically what he means by that is if the answer is God, like if the answer is all that is, let's ask the questions where the answer is God. or the universe, and really just ask those questions to lead us to a deeper understanding. Because, ultimately Gemini is about learning. Sagittarius too. They're the opposite sides of the same coin. This polarity is a very intellectual polarity, but it's about understanding and learning. So for you Sages and you Geminis out there, that's part of your evolutionary path in this lifetime, from cradle to grave, is to learn, and avoid boredom. If it's the worst thing that ever happened to you, you're going to sure cover a lot of miles. It'll be fun. There'll be a lot of stumbling blocks and tripping hazards, but those so-called failures, you'll grow the most through those experiences. So this is the polarity of learning. And this is a good time to think and to contemplate and to seek to, again, perceive reality more clearly. And then ask the follow-up questions. How is my moon, or how are my emotions perhaps serving or muddying up our understanding or our perception of reality? Where are my emotions getting in the way of my intellectual understanding, perceptual understanding of what reality actually is? And I'd say most specifically, the martial variety of our emotions, which again is anger and fear. Please allow me to get a little bit mystical and esoteric with you. I suppose with Neptune and Jupiter and Pisces, it's a good opportunity to do that. But as many of you know, I like to frame things in this way. The ancient Greeks and the ancient Egyptians, in their inner circle of mystical training, their Jedi training, if you will, once they became masters of visualization, they had their first step along their process of spiritual evolution in their training was to completely dissolve, to de-energize, to suffocate the anger within. Their philosophy was that if you're going to go along the spiritual path, you need to extinguish completely any anger within you. They saw the expression of anger as nothing but an expression of the human egoism. It had nothing to do with the soul energy, because the soul is an extension of the divine. It's pure life light. It's unconditional love. So the soul doesn't experience anger. This is their perspective. And they think anger is an expression of pure ignorance and egoism. So they sought to completely extinguish that within themselves. Now, that doesn't mean they can't be fierce. That doesn't mean they can't be assertive and take action. That's warrior energy too. It depends on what is motivating that action and that fierceness. Is it love or is it fear and anger? And there's a big, big difference between the two. And the Mars, the war god, the warrior, and even the moon, the archetypal great mother, what these two planets have in common is to protect the weak and defenseless. So we can still take action without reacting through the anger impulse. So these ancient mystics, they use the mythos of the mythology of Hercules going on the 12 labors, and they put it on the mystical path, and they said it fit it perfectly. And of course, 12 labors is there's a lot to do there, but their first labor, the first path, the Hercules was half god, half man, which is a perfect metaphor for a soul incarnated in a human body, half god, half man. So really that's what Hercules represents, at least from the esoteric perspective, is the soul incarnate and having that experience. And then the Hercules had to do the bidding of the evil king. The evil king didn't like Hercules, and he wanted to kill Hercules, but he was doing it in a very sneaky way. He was sending Hercules to do all these dangerous activities in hopes that Hercules would die, and then the king could get rid of him. So the first task from the king to Hercules was to kill the lion of Nemea. Now, the lion was hurting and killing a lot of people. It was a very dangerous foe. And that represents the inner anger within, according to the ancient Egyptians and Greeks. And, Hercules went out there to find the lion in the cave, and he shot arrows at it. He even tried to stab it with a knife. The skin of the lion was impenetrable. And the only way Hercules could kill the lion is if he strangled it completely. So the lion represents our inner anger that we must suffocate or strangle. This is according to the ancient mystics. And they had meditation techniques to do that. And in the video today, I won't be doing their meditation technique, but I will be doing one that is focused on not only perceiving our anger more clearly, just to keep it with Gemini, but also actively seeking to, yes, develop more awareness about it, but ultimately disintegrate it or transmute it. So that meditation is very much focused on our internal anger. So that's the symbolism. And the Egyptians used the symbolism of Hercules to go on this 12-step path towards basically ridding oneself of the ego, the human ego. At least the dark side of it. I mean, it needs to be there functionally. But, all the extension of the ego, which has to deal with the dark side, which is pride and egoism. They said, step one on the path. Before you do any of these advanced meditation techniques, you get the Kundalini fire going up the spine. And they didn't call it Kundalini, but they knew it existed. That sacred fire within, which is pure fertilizer for your astral body, all the good and the bad. So if you start doing Kundalini techniques, these advanced techniques, without cleansing the human personality, that Kundalini serving as fertilizer will strengthen that warrior or that anger energy within you, that inner destructive nature within you. It'll strengthen, let's say, unhealthy sexual desire. There's nothing wrong with sexual desire, but that sexual desire will increase as well through the Kundalini practices. So they said, first, work with anger before you do any of the advanced techniques. They were very adamant about this. So I love this idea of, during this full moon, developing more awareness about the role anger has played in our lives. Even thinking about the role anger has played within the collective, within humanity. And then actively seek to extinguish that. And through meditation is one of the most powerful ways of doing that. And it takes sheer willpower and using meditative techniques to focus your consciousness towards that end. Because the thing with the warrior energy is you can't fight against it. You can't fight against anger. If you fight against it, it will grow in strength and it will suck your chi, your life force. You have to learn to become, with your willpower, to become disinterested in it and to not allow that expression within yourself. So again, as promised, this is a very esoteric perspective on this. But I just love the idea of instead of falling in the trap of expressing that inner heat and fire of the anger specifically, and instead go towards more that fierceness. Now, with Hercules, when he killed the lion, what he did was, after he strangled it, he skinned it and he put the hide on, and then he put the lion's head over his own head, and he returned to the king, and he scared all the villagers and the king because they thought the lion had come back to seek revenge, but then they realized, oh, it's Hercules. That represents the idea of we still want to maintain the fierceness of the warrior, just without the anger. Because if there's other people that realize that you no longer feel anger, they'll try to take advantage of you. So it's important to still have that mask on, so that people don't know that that's been extinguished within you, but they still feel the ferocity of the inner warrior, who is not afraid to stand up to them. So this is, as I said, this is a time of letting go of this old 2-year cycle. Goodbye, Saturn, Uranus, kind of tired of talking about it. 2023 is a whole new horizon. I'm very excited to dive into that. I'll probably dedicate a whole video to Pluto entering into Aquarius because it's such a major event, but that's going to be more saved for next year. So going within, investigating, journalistic curiosity about your own anger, your own fear. How can I cultivate more of my inner warrior? How in my life can I face my fears to evoke courage? Where do I need to assert myself to protect the weak and defenseless? These are the questions of the full moon, all aiming towards, again, accelerating our growth process. It's for the betterment and evolution of our soul so that we can add our own virtuous potential and do our own small part within the collective to try to bump ourselves on that more utopian timeline. As we get into the middle of this decade, it's going to be, again, a whole new world. So those are the core evolutionary intentions, with the goal being to expand our consciousness. Now we're going to head into the meditation. I use a technology called binaural beats, so I recommend using headphones for best results. Enjoy. Get in a nice, comfortable position. Make any last micro adjustment movements, and just relax and let go. Inhale through your nose, deep into your belly and lungs. Exhale from your nose. Rhythmic breathing. And pay attention to the soles of your feet. Maintain your awareness on the soles of your feet. And on your next inhale, move your attention from your feet slowly all the way up to your head. And at the top of your breath, just hold for a moment. And then exhale, move your awareness slowly back down to your feet. And keep your breath as slow as you can. That is still comfortable. And do a couple more repetitions of moving your awareness up as you inhale to the top of your head, and then as you exhale, back down to the soles of your feet. On your next inhale, bring your attention from your feet up into your stomach and maintain awareness in your stomach and solar plexus area. And also maintain the slow breathing. And visualize a sky blue sun shining in all directions around you in your stomach area, the size of a beach ball, in and around your stomach and solar plexus. And with each inhale, you see the sky blue color grow more luminous and bright. On the next inhale, let the blue color fade and move your attention up into your chest area. Visualize a beautiful pink sun in and around your chest, the same size, shining in all directions around you. With each inhale, the pink color glows more brightly. And as you visualize the pink color, feel feelings of self-love, compassion, joy. And as you visualize the pink color, also send forgiveness to those you want to forgive, and ask forgiveness from those you seek forgiveness. And bless anybody that you want in this moment. Slowly let the color fade and move your attention up into the center of your head and visualize a white gold sun, the same size, in and around your head, shining in all directions. With each inhale, you see this color shine out in all directions more and more and more. And visualize this color so bright that it's almost blinding. And maintain this visualization for a few more breaths. Slowly allow the color to fade, and now remember an event that took place in your life in the somewhat recent past when you got a little angry or frustrated. And it's important to remember this event through the eyes and mind of the investigator, of the journalist. Just trying to see what happened with a certain curiosity, No praise, no blame. Just looking at whatever happened with as much clarity as you can. And remember the event as it happened. Visualize what was said on your behalf and others. Remember what you thought. Remember what you felt. And remember how those thoughts created more of the emotion in you. Just look at it. And think to yourself, how could I have done better in this situation? Don't worry about the other person necessarily, because the situation, whatever it was, no matter how much harm the person gave you, let's not worry about that, the justification part. Just how did you function in this event? And how could you have done it better? How could you have brought the best of who you are, which is an extension of the divine, the part of you that is pure life light, if that part of you was functioning in this moment, how would you have responded? What would you have said instead? What would you have thought instead? And see yourself operating from your higher self, without any egoism. Also pay close attention to your feelings and visualize the event, but you operating within it with a certain calm clarity, a tranquil ferocity, still assertive. A serene temerity. Fierce but loving. No anger. Just pure soul's expression. Standing up for yourself and others, but in an evolved way. The most evolved expression of the spiritual warrior archetype, operating flawlessly in this moment, in this test. And now say to yourself, if this happens again, or something similar to this happens again, even if my anger is justified, and even if the worst is true, I will instead consciously choose to come from my spiritual warrior. I will consciously choose love and light for the betterment of myself and my fellow brothers and sisters, because we're all in this together. So be it. slowly and gently return to your body. Begin to wiggle your fingers and toes a little bit. Return to your environment. And whenever you're ready, open your eyes.